folks a few minutes to log in, and then we'll get started. All right, everyone. Welcome to our writer's workshop with Jonny Techlit. Hope I said that right. Never actually asked myself that question. I'll go ahead and turn my video on so everyone can see me here. Hello, my name is Shady Rose. I'm the events manager here at Lost City Books, and we're so pleased that you're joining us this evening. We do have a few more people who will probably be rolling in as we keep going. So let's just go ahead and get started, and they can come in as needed. First, I'll introduce our bookstore in case you haven't heard of us before. We are Lost City Books, a used, new, and rare bookstore located in Adams Morgan, Washington, D.C. We specialize in a very carefully curated selection of books, curated, of course, by our wonderful, incredible booksellers and staff, such as the wonderful and venerable Jonny himself. So yeah, talking about you. So if you have the chance to roll through here and take a look at our selection, you might find a lot of really interesting things. So we're very happy to have you here, and especially to have our very own Jonny hosting this workshop in partnership with National Novel Writing Month. And I will tell you a little bit about National Novel Writing Month, though I think many of you might already know if you're here. National Novel Writing Month began in 1999 as a daunting but straightforward challenge to write 50,000 words of a novel in 30 days. Now, each year on November 1st, hundreds of thousands of people around the world begin to write, determined to end the month with 50,000 words of a brand new novel. They enter the month as elementary school teachers, mechanics, or stay-at-home parents. They leave novelists. That's their official line, and I think it's pretty cool. I don't know how many times I've tried myself personally to write a novel during NaNoWriMo, but maybe this time it will be the finishing time. So what we're here to do today is have this wonderful workshop with Jonny and kind of hone our prose writing skills, get invigorated, and find new ways to express ourselves with words. Just a few things to note. This workshop is being live streamed simultaneously. So if you do choose to speak on camera, then your video might pop up and appear on the video, just to let you know. If you don't want your face to appear when we're doing Q&A and participation stuff, just keep your camera off, that's okay. However, we would love to see your face because it's so much better to connect face to digital face. Without further ado, I'm going to pass it over to Jonny. So I'm going to go on mute so that Jonny can pick right up.
Hi, everybody. Wow, so cool. Hi, I'm so glad you're all here. This is super exciting. I haven't done a writing workshop in a minute, so I'm like glad to be among fellow writer enthusiasts. So yeah, my name's Jonny. My pronouns are he, him. I work at Lost City Books. I write, as I feel like y'all do as well. Would it be possible to get started by like everyone introducing themselves, just like saying hi? If you would like, whoever can start, you can just unmute and say whatever.
I can go. My name is Tim.
Can't hear you, Tim.
Computer still muted?
Oh, wait. Tim, say something again.
Okay.
Yeah. No, my computer was muted like a fool. I can hear you.
Okay. So my name is Tim and my pronouns are he, they, and I've done NaNoWriMo since I was a sophomore in high school. So it's been about 7 years, I think.
Cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Anyone else wish to introduce themselves? Obviously no pressure, but it's cool to like say hi. Cool, no worries. Well, anyway, might as well get started. I will start it off by a little exercise that I like to do for fun whenever I'm trying to get started with writing things. And I love prose stuff, but I admit, a poet by nature. And this is a rather fun activity that I did while trying to generate new language for poems that would sort of not come from my brain naturally. So is everyone willing to like spend some time like actually writing during this workshop? Is that like cool with everyone? Great. So the idea is if you have some form of writing, I don't know if you prefer writing by hand or typing, what have you. We're going to be doing a little free write for a little bit, for let's say 10 minutes. And a free write is basically you start writing and you don't stop writing until the 10 minutes are up. The catch will be, I will give you what your first line will be. I will be reading it from this random book, and periodically throughout the free write, I will be giving you another line. And once you hear that second line, for example, you have to include that line in your story as well, right when you hear it. And it's fine if it doesn't really make much sense. We'll just kind of see how it goes. And maybe we'll do a few minutes less than 10 to like get everything going. And so for those of you who are just joining us, we're doing a quick little reading exercise where we're going to be writing for a little bit. I'm going to be giving you lines periodically that you need to write into your story. And then at the end, anyone who wishes to share can share, and we can see what we come up with. Don't be nervous about it not being good. Most free writes are just like brain spillage of whatever is rattling in our head. So the first line of what we will be writing will be I will run up the stairs and then down the stairs. That is the phrase that we are starting with. And so that's your jumping off point. I have a timer going. The phrase is, I will run up the stairs, then down the stairs. And then you can write whatever. And I will chime in a few minutes with the next line. All right, y'all. Your next line will be, tonight, it's somebody's birthday. Feel free to keep writing whatever it is you're writing, but the next sentence must be, tonight, it's somebody's birthday. And also, we'll write these out in the chat so that if you ever need to like look back, in case you forget what they are, you can. All right.
here's the invitation. Definitely.
Hi, friends. Your next line is tie a red string around my finger. And again, you can just weave that into whatever you're writing. Tie a red string around my finger. And we're over halfway done, so don't worry.
Pink up crust chicken stuffed with orison, filet with wild mushrooms, and natural portobello mushroom and grilled.
Oh, I don't know. I'm doing something.
Next line. No one will ask me where I'm going. No one will ask me where I'm going. Only one more after this.
New cherry letters from USA.
Table. Doing an online writing exercise. I signed up for ages ago.
Alrighty, y'all. And your last line. She brought the dead back, then returned them.
I can't hear.
She brought the dead back and returned them. And then there are 90 seconds left. And then we will see what weird creations we've made. All right, Elle, that's it. We're done. Pencils down, typing fingers down, whatever. I'm always very curious because this exercise kind of goes differently with a bunch of different people. Does anyone want to share how they thought it went for them personally? You can type your answer, you can unmute and answer yourself, what have you. Would anyone like to share what they wrote? Or segment what they wrote? You don't have to read the whole thing. You can read like one line you really like. You can read, I don't know, a paragraph that you find enjoyable.
I can say that it, I don't know if you can hear me or not. I can say that for me, it was very, like, partially I was writing about like madness. So for me, there was a very smooth, like I could keep weaving in the lines quite easily because it was a stream of conscious sort of mad methodology to it. So
Cool.
for me, I wrote straight through it. It's a very good feeling to be able to keep moving.
That's awesome. Is there any segment that you enjoyed that you would feel comfortable sharing? You don't have to, obviously.
I guess, I mean, the very beginning, I will run up the stairs and then down the stairs. I went with that and went with like, I will power walk through the house and around it and up the street to the corner only to turn back. This will burn the mad energy, the spark that will ignite, if not tempered. If I burn enough of the energy, I may find room in myself to create. So that just
Cool.
kind of.
That's awesome. Does anyone else have any thoughts on how it went for them, or like anything that they would like to share about how the experience went generally?
I could share a paragraph. Tie a red string around my finger to remind me this is my grandson's birthday, not my son's celebration. The memories swim together like fish darting to and fro in the ocean, dashing here and there with no set destination.
John, I think you're muted.
Yeah.
I totally am muted. I'm an amateur at this.
Thanks.
Never
I was
doing this
trying
forever.
to fix it.
Anyway, thank you. I was going to say, I love the idea that even beyond the red string being tied around the finger, there's this like tethered nature between son and grandson and like celebrate. I think it's really cool. That's awesome. Thank you for sharing, Mary.
Mhm.
Does anyone else want to share it? Either a segment or a line or anything like that? All right, no biggie. I before we continue, I guess, to other things, does anyone have any questions, like generally speaking, that they would like to ask? I guess. Cool. If anyone has any questions, feel free to interrupt. There is a author by the name of Takira Madden who wrote for the Tribe of Fatherless Girls, and great book. But Takira Madden has this list of questions that she sort of like asks and like works through whenever she's pondering like another prose project. And she writes at least primarily nonfiction, since For the Tribe of Fatherless Girls was a memoir. And so these questions are, I guess, formatted slightly towards nonfiction, but they can easily be formatted to a character in a novel or a story. But I'm going to read this list. It's been like it's like a really helpful list that I've like oriented myself around when it comes to like writing prose. If anyone like wants to jot them down, I will like read them kind of methodically, I suppose, because I know that when I was in this talk with Takira was like going what it felt like a million miles an hour, and I was like, no, wait, please, I'm not ready. So yeah, here's a series of questions that can either be for you if you're a nonfiction writer or for your character. You can substitute the you in all of these questions how you see fit. What do you know a lot about? What do you know a lot about? And then the inverse. What don't you know? What questions are you always asking? What are you obsessed with? What images, words, sounds always show up in your life, writing or otherwise? What are some dreams that stay with you? Recurring dreams, vivid dreams, etc. What do you always notice? What is characteristic about the way you notice? And in that sense, I think about how whenever I have this vivid memory of going and seeing a movie in theaters with a friend of mine. It was The Favorite from a couple of years ago. And I'm always catching soundtrack choices. And I always notice whenever like music swells in a certain scene. Whereas my friend was noticing all of the costume choices. And when we exited the theater, she was like, it was interesting that they all had black and white dresses when black and white fashion wasn't really a thing in that time period. And it's like not something I ever would have caught or paid attention to. So in that sense, what do you always notice, and what is characteristic about the way you notice? Like, what do you catch that someone else might not catch? What's a fictional place that feels real to you? What memories do you associate with awe? AWE, the big gasp or whatever. For me, it's like large flocks of birds whenever they do that like cloud thing.
A murmuration.
A murmuration, exactly. What weather feels most vivid to you? Oh, this is super handy. Yeah, so Shady is writing down all the questions on the screen too. So if you miss them, you can catch them. What weather feels most vivid to you? This one I particularly liked because I had never thought of it before. What is a route or shortcut you know well? And I think that one stands out to me because there are routes, or I guess shortcuts, that I think about a lot that I have not used or like traversed down in many, many years because maybe I don't live in that place, but it still feels very like seared into my memory, I suppose I would say. What writing habits / calling cards do you notice about yourself? When I did this like weird experiment a couple years ago where I wanted to, while reading a novel or like a memoir or something, or a collection of essays, I wanted to see if I could pick out like a single word that an author like used a lot that they enjoyed using for some reason. So for example, in Her Body and Other Parties, a collection of short stories by Carmen Maria Machado, she uses the word kick a lot. It shows up in the dream house as well, like a kick of desire or a kick in the gut, and like that, like kick takes all these different meanings. So that's something that I find like really interesting to like catch or notice. So do you have any of those? Do you have any sort of like, even if you don't immediately know them like right away, like any calling cards about your writing? And then this is just more generally for you as well. What's your favorite writing that you've done? A line or a stanza or a full piece, essay, story, etc. What is your favorite writing that you've done? What physical objects hold weight or meaning for you in your life? And again, to reiterate, if you're writing fiction, you could just apply these, or some of these, or all of these, or none of these to a fictional character, if you so choose. What's a legend or myth that has stayed with you? Some story, some, whether urban legend or, you know, myth of old, etc., that you think about that is something that interests you. I think a lot about the myth of Orpheus, for example. Who are you writing for, real or imagined? And I suppose this is another question that's more for the writer and less for the character persona, but like, who are you writing for, real or imagined? Like for Takira Madden's Tribe of Fatherless Girls, it's in the title, who it's for primarily. So who is your writing for? What is it like to like, what's the most specific you can get in, and again, like real or imagined? Yeah, I will leave it there for now. These are fun questions that I think about a lot whenever I'm like approaching writing. It's fun to even use these as like springboards to, if I like don't know what I'm writing, I'll like pull up this doc and I'll be like, well, today I'm going to write about like the things that I notice, and kind of what spurs from that, etc. Are there any of these questions that stand out to any of you as things that you find interesting, or things you'd want to explore more, etc., or just questions you have about them in particular? Go ahead, Mary.
I think, what do you always notice? Because if you think about it, you really don't notice what you always notice until you stop and give it some thought. That's interesting.
Yeah. I like, again, like I would have never noticed that I focus on like the scores of a movie if it hadn't been sort of paralleled to my friends who noticed like costume choices. And then on top of that, like her expressing her noticing of the costume choices made me aware that that's like an entirely other realm of things that is able to be noticed to begin with, right? Or one of my friends is like really into like types of houses, which is not something that I like know anything about. Like for me, it's like a house has walls and a roof, and they're like, oh, but it has like this styling or that styling. And so that kind of thing is fun to me. My noticing is a lot, it's like often oriented about like, I don't know, like the natural world. Like I'll catch like a bird preening and I'm like, oh, it's like on one foot every time it like preens its left side, and then it switches feet whenever it preens its right side, like things like that. But yeah, that is a question that I love a lot. Is there anything else that stands out for anyone? Yeah. So there's a question of if we're not talking about you as a writer, if we want to like play for a bit, like what about fictional characters? Like, is there a fictional character that you have in your head that, how would they approach some of these questions, do you think? How, is there anything that they, like, are there any shortcuts that they're really familiar with? If there aren't, because it's not necessary for the plot that you have so far, then you can just devise one. Is there anything that, do any of these questions apply or can be applied to any of the work that you're doing at the moment? And if so, how? If you're willing to share, that is.
We could give folks 5 minutes to write about their characters.
Oh, true.
And answer like 3 of these questions.
Yeah, I would totally do that. Everyone to like pick a question or 2 or 3, and just kind of write a little thing for a couple minutes about how they would answer it. Yeah, totally. I will set a timer for 5 minutes.
I'll repeat that because I'm on mute.
Yeah. So basically, we're gonna do a little thing where we spend some time answering one of these questions. You can answer more than one. You can answer one for the whole 5 minutes, whatever you feel. Like Mary, you talk about it's hard to notice what you always notice. So maybe this is just 5 minutes of just a straight list, like a bullet point list of what are things that either you notice as Mary, or what are things that a character would notice in the whatever you're writing or planning to write or hoping to write, etc. Yeah, we can spend 5 minutes on that. I will set a timer and we will reconvene at 7:45. Hi, everyone. We're back. I'm curious what people answered or wrote toward. You can either say or type in the chat which question you chose to answer. And then from there, I'm also curious if anyone's willing to share what they answered or what they wrote in response to what they answered. I wrote about number 10, a route or shortcut that you know well.
It looks maybe like Megan's trying to share, but
Oh. Yeah. I couldn't tell if you were speaking, Megan, but I could not hear you. But there was the little green box around your name, so maybe.
Can you hear me now?
How curious.
are you on mute? Is your computer muted?
Megan, will you say something?
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, my computer was muted again. I'm gonna write a note
No worries.
so that I don't continue to do this. Anyway,
That's
hi.
okay.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm well. What did you write about?
Thank you for prompting. No, I wrote about number 5. It's a little on the nose, but my novel is about someone who's dreaming about a past life. So he finds himself dreaming about it a lot. So I wrote about number 5.
Are you willing to read any of it? A segment or a line?
I can a little. I didn't actually get that much done. I was working on this beforehand, but
Totally.
I didn't actually get much done in the 5 minutes, unfortunately.
Totally fine. Even if it's a single sentence that you like, that's a-okay.
Yeah, so I guess it's a little bit of a weird scene, but he's in this scene, he's betrayed by his family members who are trying to send him off to war. And the sort of takeaway, I guess it's just sort of the point is he's betrayed by somebody he trusts, and then he is sort of ready to give it all up. And then he finds maybe a new ally, somebody who kind of tells him get yourself up and have at it again. And the one line I really liked from this scene, which I think I've tried to incorporate a sort of a continuous thing between between these two characters' relationships, is his sort of new ally tells him to stop bleeding into the water. And I don't know, I just really liked that one sentence, which is so snappy and blunt and ruthless, but also sort of very full of care.
Yeah, I love that. I love the I don't know, image it displays, how there's naturally a horror that's associated with blood in the water, but then at the same time, the care comes in when you think about how blood diffuses in water and becomes less sharply red and becomes more of this sort of pink as it melts into the translucent water. I think that's really cool. Does anyone else have any thoughts too? If you're willing to hear thoughts, Megan, I don't want to make you have to hear other people's opinions.
No, it would be nice.
Yeah. And so people, don't be shy. If there's things that you want to say, you're welcome to. We are a workshop. We are a little cohort for the next rest of the time that we have together. Oh, cool. Andrea says, I wrote about what my main character notices and how she notices. Awesome. Tim wrote, I answered number 15. Who are you writing for, real or imagined? Tim says, I write for myself, but not my present self. I write for my child self, who didn't know that he was allowed to have all the feelings he felt. I want to tell him that it's okay. Totally. That's awesome. And then Jackie wrote, I tried to answer all for one of my suspects. It revealed slightly more about her. Ooh, how intriguing. I like the idea of suspects. And I love how trying to answer all of them for a person can like reveal things that you may not know. Like I think in the same way that we may not know things about the way that we notice or don't notice, I think that can easily be true about the characters that we like create. And so when you like sit with them, you can discover like, oh, they would notice this in this way and that kind of thing. And I think that's really fun to like learn things about the characters that are supposedly like from you and that kind of thing. Mine, mostly nonfiction. I wrote about the route or shortcut that I know well. And a segment that I really like from it is that on Fridays in like the late morning, early afternoon, with the call to prayer, there are so many people in the streets, like near the mosque, that they kind of like supersede the cars' right to drive on the roads. And so the cars and the people driving in the cars get kind of irritated because there's all these people in the streets. But it's there's like nothing you can do. So there's a lot of like waiting around, and you can just kind of technically jaywalk wherever because all the cars are moving at a snail's pace while people are like going back to their cars as they leave the mosque. And that's something that like always stuck out to me. I grew up abroad, so it's like an image. And so I would, whenever I was leaving the metro stop closest to my house to get home, I would pass by this mosque that had a bunch of people leaving it. And so I always think about how everyone would be flocking out. And there'd be like taxis, like not even honking. They just have to just like wait. And there's like a man with like his like tapping the side with his hand out the window kind of thing. Anyway, there's a little blast from the Jonny past, I guess. Sorry. But yeah, once again, checking in. Does anyone have any questions or any like thoughts? Is anyone willing to not necessarily share writing, but share like what they're working on, if that's something that they want to do? Again, obviously, no pressure. And then I can think of another fun game / writing exercise that we can do later as well.
I'm writing a mystery, and that's why I had suspects.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. What is it like? What's the like setting like, or anything like that? If you're willing to talk about it.
Yeah, it's the DC area.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Wow. How thrilling. What was it like to answer those sort of like 15, like, I guess, guiding questions for one of the suspects?
Well, I did get to know her a little bit more. You know, I think it's a good riff too, right? You just go through, and even if you just have one word, sometimes it'll start kind of getting the juices flowing, kind of.
Definitely.
Even if you don't get like a lot of information, you know, it's a way in, I guess.
Yeah. And especially if, I mean, given a mystery, some suspects are bound to be more like reserved or cagey or
right. I don't know some of them very well yet.
Right. Some could have like very curt answers, and some could like not stop talking and that kind of thing. And so that's fun. And not someone that continually talks doesn't necessarily mean that they're truthful, et cetera, et cetera. That's awesome. Very exciting. I muted myself right as I asked another question. Anybody else have any like what the like general vibe is like that you're doing? Like Tim, you mentioned that you have been doing NaNoWriMo stuff for like a long time. Like what's it like to like return to it every year and that kind of thing as well?
It's definitely very interesting to try and do it every year. Like the past 2 years, I haven't had as good of a track record, but I've been moving around a lot and dealing with mental health stuff, but I still always sign up in the attempt to try it. This year, I'm going slightly easier on myself, and I'm planning out a a fan fiction, which is still going to be like 50,000 words, but it's not going to be like entirely original fiction, which takes up so much more space in my brain than
Definitely.
like
Definitely.
fan fiction. But I'm writing a story about two girls who fall in love while playing for their varsity sports teams at their school. And I'm telling it from the outside perspective of a boy who's gay and knows that both of the girls are into each other and is just like watching them dance around each other. And he's just like, okay, I understand that you are both very scared of each other, but can you please just kiss already? It is driving the whole school mad.
Interesting. That's very cute. I'm also curious how, with fan fiction and thus it being like already like there's already like established source material, what is it like if you approach those questions at all that were listed earlier, what do you find that there are the answers that you come to when you think about, I guess, if I don't know if you only thought about question 15 or not, but if you like think about the other ones, are the answers that you would come to, do you find that they have to fit into whatever the established source material is, or do you find that the answers diverge?
Sometimes they stick to the source material and sometimes they don't. I know with this particular source material I'm using, which is a children's book series, they don't go very in depth with like the backstories at all because it's a children's book. They just want to jump straight into the action, which leaves a lot of room for interpretation and a lot of room for like, well, how did they get to the place where they are now? And I'm thinking about recurring dreams specifically and how one of my main characters was abandoned unintentionally by her father. And I'm just like, having recurring dreams about her dad would make this so much darker and sadder, and I might actually have to include that somewhere in the book.
Yeah, totally. Cool. Thanks for sharing. That's awesome. Totally, again, totally no pressure, but Lucia or Andrea, hope I'm saying your name right, Andrea, and it's not like Andrea. But is there anything that you would like to share at all, or about kind of what you're working on, what your like hopes are for the month and that kind of thing?
I can share if I don't, unless Andrea wants to go first, or go at all.
Totally fine.
So I did Nano back during Hurricane Sandy, whichever year that was. And I succeeded that year, even though I wrote the first 10,000 words on paper by candlelight, because I was flooded.
Hardcore.
So I won that year and I've never won since. So I think, I think I need a hurricane to win again. But that novel that I wrote then, I'm editing now, and it's fantasy genre in a world that I generated.
Cool.
So there's a lot of world building to it, including, you know, like different races that like there's like a troglodyte, right? Like they live partially underground. So like their pigment has gone because that's what happens when you live in caves and things like that.
Very cool.
So the one I'm working on now is basically, it's the same world, it's just different characters, right? There's a connection between them, but they're different stories entirely.
Yeah. Interesting. Do you find it being the same world, do they take place in like different parts of this world, or is there any point where there's like the same?
So they take place in different times. They take place,
oh,
you
okay.
know, like they take place like a long time. So one of them, the first one I did, the one that I actually finished for Nano and then actually finished afterwards because it's much longer than 50,000 words. That was, it has an editor. It has like a narrator who has footnotes, who says this is a translation. He's basically saying this is the Canterbury Tales of an entire race.
Fun.
And
That's so
the
cool.
person I'm writing now is the guy he's the editor. He made that translation.
Got it. That's super exciting.
So there are connections. They're just kind of esoteric.
Totally. Very cool. Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
That's rad. I don't know if you want to share or not, Andrea. There's, again, absolutely no pressure. Andrea says, I'm working on a story about a person watching the country. She loves change from being open to wanting to be closed off, and I'm tracing her emotional trials dealing with that. Very cool. That's awesome. Oh, got it. Never mind. Well, thank you for sharing anyway, and for being here as well. This is a fun game that I like to do, and I do it every excuse I get, regardless of genre. Have any of you heard of an exquisite corpse before as a writing exercise, not as like a beautiful body? Okay. You probably have heard it before or done it. You just probably don't recognize the name. I don't know why it's called that really at all. But it's called Exquisite Corpse, and it's just the game where everyone writes or says one sentence of a story at a time, and you make a thing. And I think it's called an exquisite corpse because it's like a body of work that is compiled from a bunch of different people. Don't really know. Seems kind of weird, little suspect, but I love doing this, and so I do it every chance I get because it's fun to kind of get the thought process down. So if I can do this correctly, I'm going to see if I can do this. I will. Oh, bye, Megan. No, well, Megan left anyway. Okay, bye, Megan. Lovely having you. I'm going to type. Everyone's going to do it twice. So there'll be 2 rounds. I will type in the chat a line to one of you, and then the person I send it to. Oh, this works way better. This works way better. I'm gonna come up with a line, and then we'll go in a circle, and then the next person will come up with a line, and then so on and so on, and then we'll have our little story. Type it in the chat still because I have to copy and paste it. Oh yeah. You should type your line whenever you have it. You can say it out loud, but also type it in the chat so that we can actually copy it and transcribe it onto the little PowerPoint thing that we got going on here. Does that make sense? First of all, before I start, does anyone have any questions or anything? All right. Okay.
I just have one question, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So Zoom often makes people in different orders.
Yeah, I will.
So you'll call out.
Okay. Yeah, I'll say who's next.
Sorry,
yeah, that would be a real feat to try and sort out what a circle is without all of us being physically together.
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no worries. Now I have to think of the first line. Let's see. Almost every single day, I make a point to stop at the corner store. I'll just leave it at that. Let's see. What order do I want this to go in? Jackie, will you provide us with the next sentence?
Okay, and just a sentence?
Yeah, I mean, it could be a sentence or two. It doesn't. We're not limited to any sort of not a paragraph per se, but a sentence or two. Yeah. I get a quart of milk and banana bread. Terrific. Lucia, would you go next? But banana bread is not for me. Andrea, 'tis your turn. I take the banana bread to the park, looking for a bench that's free. Do. Shady, do you want to write the next one? All right, so then I will go again. So we're going to keep this order. I'll go, and then Jackie, and then Lucia, and then Andrea, and we're going to do this 2 more times so that we each go total of 3 times. All right, so let's see. When I find one, I plant myself on it and spend an hour or so breaking the loaf into little chunks for the birds. Yeah. So then Jackie's typing. After that, I go back to work. And then Lucia. And I always wish I was back in the park with the birds and the trees. And then Andrea. And then we'll have one more round. Ooh, some intrigue. The park is where I spent my happiest day before everything went wrong. Interesting. I just remembered that it's my turn. I was too busy reading. I was like, ooh, okay. All right. I've been trying not to fixate on it so much, so I keep my attention on the spreadsheet in front of me. We are in the final lap now, y'all. And I think it'll end up being like a perfect fit for this little box. I just can't keep it out of my mind. I just can't keep it out of my mind. 2 sentences left before the end of this tale. I could be like a wizard in like a tower with my little steepled fingers. Wahaha. Even the red debt of the spreadsheet reminds me. Ooh, love red debt. Even the red debt of the spreadsheet reminds me. And then Andrea, to top it all off, oops, I'm so curious. The anticipation. You can tell I haven't done a workshop in a while. I'm like very giddy. That sometimes you give too much of yourself. Talk about an ending and how give too much lines up with debt. Ah. All right. Almost every single day, I make a point to stop at the corner store. I get a quart of milk and banana bread, but the banana bread is not for me. I take the banana bread to the park, looking for a bench that's free. When I find one, I plant myself on it and spend an hour or so breaking the loaf into little chunks for the birds. After that, I go back to work. And I always wish I was back in the park with the birds and the trees. The park is where I spent my happiest day before everything went wrong. I've been trying not to fixate on it so much, so I keep my attention on the spreadsheet in front of me. I just can't keep it out of my mind. Even the red debt of the spreadsheet reminds me that sometimes you give too much of yourself. Woo! Some alchemy. That was awesome. Thanks for participating. I love this game so much. It's like super fun. You can do it with anybody. Whenever you're in person, it's fun to like write a sentence and then pass it along, and then they write a sentence, but then they cover yours so that you don't really know how it begins, and then they become like bizarre and often humorous. Yeah, I feel like that's definitely all I had slated. I just wanted to talk a bit about questions that you can use to like interrogate your own writing or characters more, and then some writing exercises that I love to do. Are there any questions or anything like that that people have, generally speaking? For the good of the order, as my English teacher in high school used to say, because he was a nerd. in a polite way, as am I. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming. I am indebted to you all very much. I'm always delighted to be able to do these kind of things. Yeah, I'm gonna pass it along to Shady, who will wrap up the jam.
Again, thank you all so much, everyone. This has been a really great and amazing workshop. I'm so happy that I got to witness and hear everything that you all worked on tonight. Keep in mind that if you want to keep writing and keep meeting up with other National Novel Writing Month folks. Our wonderful municipal liaison, is that the official title, Jackie? Is hosting write-ins every Sunday at 2 p.m. from 2 p.m. to question mark.
3:30.
3:30. And you all
An hour
can
and a
join
half.
those by following the link on our website and signing up, and you can join those. Those are also via Zoom. So there are plenty more opportunities for the rest of the month to get together with other writers, share your ideas, hunker down and work on your novels for the month. So thank you again. A round of applause for you. Very well done. And keep up with us at Lost City Books by subscribing to our newsletter on our website, following us on social media everywhere. That's at Lost City Books. Everywhere there's social media, you'll find us. Even TikTok, but don't tell anyone. And for those of you who want to review the materials, if you were in this workshop today, or if you're watching, you can shoot us an email at oracle@lostcitybookstore.com. And I do have these questions and our prompts copied down, and I'll share those with you via email. All right, everyone, have a great night. Stay safe, keep writing.
Thank you very much.